Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome to Gemini season. This season is at the halfway point of the year for you, Sagittarius suns, especially. Any of your Sagittarius placements are getting oppositions in Gemini season. Gemini is your opposing sign. And whenever we're dealing with opposition, we are dealing with reflection, we're dealing with balance, we're dealing with polarity. And in the symbolism of the solar chart that I'm working with, Gemini, you can see here, opposite to Sagittarius, is holding the solar seventh house. And this is a place of relationship. And relationships do many things for us. And one of the things that they definitely do for us is polarize us. They bring us into balance. They reflect to us. And in their sometimes oppositional nature, and by oppositional, I don't necessarily mean conflict or argument. What I mean is that we are turning to face one another. So just like my face is looking at you right now through this chart, and you are looking at me through the screen or in your inner gaze through your ears, we are in some kind of conversation, some kind of connection. And in this balance, there is a considerable distance. And there is a necessity to find our way to meet in the middle. As you know, through your own experience being alive and being in relationships, that middle ground is not always easy to find. It's not always instinctual or natural. Relationship balance oscillates. Sometimes one person in a, if we're thinking about a two-person relationship, sometimes one person will be giving 75% and another person 25. It's not always 50-50. Our exchange slides back and forth, kind of like a seesaw. And when there is reciprocity, when there's harmony, mutuality, and the feeling that even though, things are sliding, things are balancing, that there's some kind of consistent process of rebalance, those are relationships that probably are going to feel sustainable, enjoyable, and compelling. There are plenty of relationships, though, that do a kind of reverse magnetism or feel like a kind of reverse magnetism where we never really feel like there's a meeting place. And the sensation in our bodies may be highly polarized. It might feel like we can't even take one step. So over the course of Gemini season, you are invited in your consciousness to bring extra attention and awareness into your relational experiences and your relational balance. And this season is actually a really important one for you, not just because it's an opportunity for you to check in with this reflection space, the mirroring of relationships, but in 2024, we not only have the sun entering into Gemini season, but over the first couple of weeks of this season, we have a number of planetary bodies joining the sun. And first will be Venus. You can see Venus's symbol down here. Venus is entering into Sagittarius on the 23rd of May, which also happens to be, I said entering into Sagittarius, I meant entering into Gemini on the 23rd of May, which also happens to be the day of the Sagittarius full moon. And then a couple of days later on the 25th, we have your ruling planet, the emissary, the associated planet with Sagittarius, who finds its home in Sagittarius, Jupiter, moving into Gemini. And then as we get into early June, Mercury will also make its way into Gemini. And so over the course of this season, we have a lot of bodies occupying this place of reflection and polarity and opposition and relationship. And particularly with the presence of Jupiter here, again, a planet that is associated to Sagittarius. Jupiter is considered to be at home in Sagittarius. And in the kind of schematic of following the thread of planetary rulership, or what's called dispositorship, if we want to know anything about you, we need to look at, you know, who runs your house, right? Who holds your space. And so to know something about what's happening with Sagittarius, we have to look at Jupiter. And Jupiter will be in Gemini from May 25th all the way until June 10th of 2025. So we have a year-long cycle that is opening up for you this Gemini season. And over the course of this next year, one of your greatest places of learning and growth will be in the space of relationship. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this reading. As I just mentioned, the first couple of days of Gemini season are quite full. They're quite potent. We are coming into the season with the waxing full moon. The full moon perfects on the 23rd, and this is a full moon in your sign. And so especially for those of you that have your sun, ascendant, or any other placements, your moon, in the early degrees of Sagittarius, you definitely are going to be feeling this full moon because it's at 2 degrees of Sag. And again, this is also the day that Venus enters Gemini right after it makes a conjunction with Jupiter at the very last degree of Taurus. So in this movement, what I feel for you are major shifts coming into the realm of your relationships. And the shifts to me feel like expansion. And if they don't immediately feel like expansion to you, I really want to suggest that you can hold out hope that what is coming into the space of your relationship is actually full of opportunity, full of growth, and really wanting and ready to give you some gifts, to open up some pathways to receiving your blessings. Now, this sense of shift is coming from a process that I'm going to say is about, has been going on for about the last year or so. So just consider 2023 as a whole, maybe the first couple of months of 2024, your recent past. And in the recent past, I think a lot of you have been tending to some pretty important foundational work. I think a lot of you have been working in places that are harder to see on the surface. And for some of you, this might be you are doing work internally in your sense of attachment, in your sense of stability, in the ways that you are accountable to yourself and to the environment and people and others that you share space with. A lot of you have been doing actual foundational work in your family and potentially also in your work or your business, in your affairs. Some of you have been really trying to get your life into some new kind of order. And in this reordering or new ordering that you've been doing, there's been some kind of process, I think, of understanding what is actually yours to do. And I would bring this definitely into the realms of home and family and foundation building for yourself. I think a lot of you have been doing a lot of work around accountability. What is actually your work to do? And if we're going to take this into the context of relationship, and we're in relationship in multitudinous directions, not just with human beings, but with the more than human realm, with our environments, with our ancestors, with the future generations. And so in this notion of accountability, it feels like you're understanding that not everything is yours to do. And this to me feels like an ongoing process for you, and one that sometimes is going to feel highly uncomfortable because Sagittarius, as a fire sign and as Jupiter ruled fire sign, can be bossy. Okay, let's just say it. Like Sagittarius can have a lot of ideas about how people should be, how things should be. There can be a controlling nature to all 12 of the signs, and Sagittarius has its own particular flavors of this. And I think that there has been some kind of process of humility and humbling that you've been going through where you're recognizing that not everything is yours to do. Not every job is yours to do. Not every fire is yours to put out. Not every concern is yours to attend to. Not every idea that you have is actually yours to manifest. And so sometimes this has been a process, again, of humility and refinement and discernment, and maybe a little bit of checking in with your own boundaries and your capacity. Not everything is yours to do when it comes to relationships, right? So to go back to this idea of oscillation between people, ideally, if we're in a two-person relationship, then we're both given our 50, right? And together we have 100%. But that's ideally. And sometimes nobody has the spoons, right? And all I have to give you is like 2%, and all you have to give me is 4%. And so out of 100%, we have 6, and that's not even a tenth. And nobody's getting their needs met, and everybody feels depleted, and that's just how it is. And in this process of humbling and kind of relaxing into the reality of life sometimes, I think a lot of you have been recognizing this inside of your relationships, that sometimes they're just not going to be ideal. And that doesn't mean that you need to toss them out. It doesn't mean that they're not worthwhile. It doesn't mean that you're not a valuable contributor to them. And it doesn't mean that your friends, partners, colleagues, whoever, don't also bring their own value. We're living at a time of massive stress and a huge amount of responsibility on people's shoulders to attend to their survival, to families, and to dealing with this massive amount of stress, plus all the particulars that you happen to know about your life and the lives of the people who you are in relationship with. And coming to the recognition that not everything is yours to do, and sometimes what isn't yours to do and is somebody else's to do still won't get done. And sometimes that's just going to be how it is. My feeling is that there's like a surrendering that's happening for you. And in this surrender of idealism in relationship, in the surrender of control, in the surrender of labor in some ways, ideally, again, back to this ideal word, ideally, there is a liberation actually that's happening for you. And in this liberation, you're starting to feel that you have more options and you have different kinds of choices. And some of these options and choices are not about adding more or doing more or having like more possibilities. I think a big piece of the revolution for you right now is that there are actually options and choices for less. And sometimes with less, and that means like do less, right? Like put some of it down a little bit. In that, there can be a lot of anxiety. There can be the very real outcome that things that need to get done don't get done. The things that need to get addressed get swept under the rug. But there's also a lot of potential for surprise. And in the empty space of surrender and relaxation, and it's like, laisse tomber, like this is what I got to give, and I'm gonna let that be good enough. There's actually something mysterious that can happen in that space that you never would have expected, that probably catches you off guard. And it feels like a kind of room, a different kind of room for collaboration can come in. And in order to get to this place of a different kind of collaboration, a lot of you need to get comfortable with the discomfort of nothing happening, to get comfortable with the discomfort of space, non-communication, emptiness, not following through, right? Like there's something about your energy right now that is learning a lot through pausing, relaxing, letting go of your attachment to the outcomes, letting go of your attachment to your own and others' behavior, choices, actions. That's highly uncomfortable for a lot of you because Sagittarius as an energy wants activity. It wants results. It wants to be met. And in this discomfort of pause, waiting, I think a lot of you are finding that, oh, there's different information that is coming in, and this information is not what you would have found if you went out looking for it. You actually had to stop and pause. You had to be in the discomfort. You had to be with the letting go. You actually had to let go. Maybe you thought it was done. Maybe you thought it was never going to work out. But then something happened. And what happened could not have been planned. What happened had to happen with space. So this full moon on the 23rd to me feels like a full moon for you to be tuning in and checking in with the ways that you put your energy out. And noticing in your felt sense, in your inner awareness. And what I mean by the felt sense includes your somatic awareness. It includes even subtle or minor feeling fluctuations in your body. I'm talking about heart rate. I'm talking about tension between your eyes or in your forehead or in your jaw joint or in your gut. I'm talking about whether or not you can like feel your legs and feel the ground, or whether or not you notice that you're breathing, right? Like subtle cues of your body. I'm also talking about your mind body and the ways that emotions flow through your corporeal experience. And I'm also talking about your energy and the capacity that you have energetically to be present. We live in a culture that does not prioritize presence, does not teach presence, does not reward presence. We live in a culture that teaches us from day one that we need to work and work harder in order to be valuable, wanted, successful, etc. And if we pause and slow down, then what the fuck are you doing? And that means that a lot of us energetically are moving 10,000 miles a second. And even if we're sitting still, our minds are somewhere else. We're planning, we're strategizing, we're hustling internally. And energetically, can you notice, where are you, right? What is the activity that is occurring? And how does that activity then manifest as an inner body state, as a breathing pattern, as a inflammatory experience in your joints, as tension, as emotional capacity or recognition? This is a full moon that I'm going to say relationships are big mirrors around this time, but really the point for you right now is you. And so when people are being people, notice how you are responding to them. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in the narratives about who they are and what they're doing or not doing, or like all your stories about it. Turn your attention and your gaze back to yourself. Now, this is a full moon and a season, again, that is bringing a lot of opportunity. It's bringing a lot of growth. And for some of you, this feels highly romantic. And I'm just going to say that, like, this is a full moon that, you know, Venus is coming into your opposite sign. And some of you are like, wow, you know, really excited about some people. Even in those kinds of feelings, right? Even in the good kind of feelings. Don't get into the, oh my God, they're so great, and this is why, and forecasting and future tripping about like all the wonderful things that you're going to do, notice, what does it feel like in your body to be turned on, to be excited, to feel an openness? And what I really want to invite you to notice is, how do you move? How does your energy move? Where does it move? And at what velocity? And with what kinds of qualities does it move? I think a lot of you are learning how to be with your energetic patterns that actually are self-abandoning, that move too far, too fast, and move in ways that maybe are a little bit sometimes unchecked. You're learning that the quality of your energetic movement, this could even be how you look at someone. This could be how you send a text to someone. This could be the way that you don't even communicate at all, but you're thinking about something. The qualities of your energetic movement, they have a residual effect in your body. And so let's say you're newly in love, and it's like you're newly in love, right? You're on the love drugs. Your body is filled with dopamine, right? And you're just, ooh, feeling good. And you want to just like be with that person. Notice how your energy wants to leave your body. Can you practice enjoying the feeling of love, enjoying the feeling of attraction, and letting that feeling actually rest inside of your tissues, infuse your skeletal structure, expand your heart capacity? Use that feeling to affirm for yourself that love exists inside of your cells. If you're feeling activated by another person and you're noticing that your mind is like telling you stories about what they're doing or not doing, what they're saying or not saying, what kind of person they are or are not, and maybe you feel the readiness in your musculature to, dash off a quick email to them or punch them in the face. I don't know, like what's the vibe? What's the instinct that comes through you? We're all animals, right? We all are instinctual, impulsive animal bodies having spiritually inhabited experiences. And part of what we get to do in our evolutionary paths is learn to work skillfully with our animal instincts. And working skillfully with the instincts that we might have towards violence is not suppressing those instincts necessarily. It's not like shutting them off and being like, oh no, I would never punch someone in the face. It's recognizing, oh wow, that instinct actually lives in me. Taking time to feel, where does it live? What's the vibe of it? How do I see myself? Like when I imagine letting that instinct kind of come into my body, how do I see myself? What character do I become? What's my face doing? What's my voice doing? Maybe imagining other times in your life when you may have experienced this character coming into full fruition, or other people in your life that you may have actually experienced this character in as well. And then with all of that information, using your imagination, cultivating your intelligence to forecast what would happen. If you let this character totally take over your body, probably like what would happen? What would the outcomes be? I know that for me, when I allow myself to really feel the impulses towards violence, towards aggression, towards cruelty that live in my body, if I don't suppress and deny them, if I don't tell myself that I'm a bad person for having that instinct or something like that, but if I allow myself to work with them, that doesn't mean doing the thing, right? It means actually turning towards it, getting curious, doing the research. A lot of times what I find are the roots of trauma that's much bigger than me. A lot of times what I find is the validation and the affirmation that if I do indeed enact this kind of behavior, I will indeed make it worse. It's not going to make me feel better. As much as I want to just like, let that person have it, it's not going to get me the love that I want in return. It's just going to drive us further apart. It's just going to make the feeling that I have in my own body of trauma and unmet needs and, fear or whatever is coming up for me, loneliness, it's just going to make that actually worse. And so then I'm going to be with that. And from that place, like, care for the parts of me that have needs, right? Because the instincts towards aggression, towards fighting, towards letting somebody have it, yes, they're animal instincts, but they're also instincts and reflexes that are coming up because something is unmet, something feels threatened. And maybe not in 100% of circumstances do we have the space, capacity, or privilege to actually just be with the thing. Sometimes it really is a life or death situation. There really does need to be a very fast response. But probably in 99% of our circumstances, we could take a pause. We could take a beat. And so this is also where it's like, check in with your energy. How is your energy moving out? What is it wanting to do? Where is it going? And are you leaving yourself? And we can leave ourselves in ways that feel fabulous, and we can leave ourselves in ways that feel terrible. As we move towards the end of May, this flow, I think, of like checking in with your own energy then wants to take a return. And now you want to notice, like, how do I receive? How do I actually let in what is around me or what's trying to be given? How do I listen? Are you a person who listens waiting for your opportunity to respond? Are you a person who, when you're listening, if you hear something that you disagree with or you feel activated by, your whole body then goes into alert and now you're ready to put your energy out and you can't absorb anymore what somebody is saying? Are you someone that can't take a compliment, right? Like if someone's trying to be like, hey, you look great, you're, oh no, like brush it off or something like that. How do you receive what is being given? And how do you also receive your own energy? How do you receive your own spirit? How do you receive what life can offer to you? So there is definitely an emphasis as we move towards the end of May on your receptivity, your needs, your bodily needs, your mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs, and how do you meet those? And in your attempts to meet your needs, how do you actually receive what is available to you and what you're taking in? And this is a kind of discernment between receptivity and consumption, because we can consume a lot without feeling that receptive to it. And so again, there's a feeling of the intelligence of slowing down, the necessity of pausing and noticing how your energy is moving. Now, as we move into the month of June, everybody is coming into Gemini, into your opposite sign. Mercury is entering into the sign as of June 3rd. We enter into June with Aries moon, and then we are moving towards a new moon in Gemini on the 6th. And so this first week of June feels really energizing. It feels like there's a lot that wants to build and come forward. And this is where it feels like your relationships really start to expand and doors are opening and new conversations are happening. Maybe some of you are meeting new people. There are really powerful, potent symbols coming through this week around up-leveling your relationships and integrating lessons that you have been receiving. I'm going to say over the last year, but especially if you think back to last year between July and September, that Venus retrograde that we had. This is a period of time that's kind of mirroring some of that energy. And the feeling that I have is you have learned some lessons recently about the quality of conversation, the quality of dynamic, the quality of connection that you want to have and that feels most aligned towards your growth and evolution. And this is a week that wants to prove it to you, right? Like wants to show you, yes, this learning is happening. This growth is real. Keep investing in it. Keep moving this way. And as you keep moving this way, what you want to do is continue to stabilize. What you want to do is continue to work on your attachment system. In this stability and in this stabilizing need, some of you are really taking some big next steps in relationships. I get, this isn't going to be everybody, but a lot of Sagittarius identified folks, as we get through that new moon or as we get into the month of June, a lot of your relationships, particularly significant one-on-one relationships, are moving to the next step. Now, this definitely could be like partner relationships. You're like, oh my gosh, let's move in together or something like that, or let's move out. We don't need to live together anymore. Let's do something else. It could also be things like collaborations. So you've been meeting people who are really meeting you, and now you want to do something together, and you're thinking about building. Or you've been working with people and building something together, and you're recognizing that you need a change. And so now you're making those changes. And whether it's about moving towards one another or moving away from one another. So again, let's go back to this idea of the relational polarity, kind of like magnetism. So whether you're feeling like those magnets are attracting and coming stronger together, or whether they're in like repulsion or aversion and needing to move apart, either way, Sagittarius, new opportunities are opening for you, and I really want you to trust them. I really want you to move in the direction of relational growth and trust that both intimacy and proximity and closeness can provide growth, as can distance and space and moving in other directions. This is a period of time for you in which your curiosity is absolutely going to be your best friend and greatest ally. Be curious about who other people are and where they're coming from. Be curious about yourself and how your energy is moving. Be curious about the possibilities and the combinations. Be curious about what people really mean when they say that thing. And then pause and actually give them space and time to give you an answer, and get curious about how you listen. Your trajectory, again, over the next year is about relational growth. And a lot of you are asking big questions about relationships right now. You are feeling into the potential. I think you're doing a ton of learning. A lot of you are having like, oh my gosh, moments about how you have been, right? How things are now, and like, wow, okay, this is a possibility for where things are going to go next. And the answers are not meant to be here right now. You are actually meant to be in the questions. And this is not always easy for Sagittarius. And I said this already in a different way, but I'm going to say it again because this is the next year of your life. You are not supposed to know the answer right now. You are supposed to be in the question. You're not supposed to know exactly where you're going. You're supposed to be on the journey. You're not supposed to know what other people should do, right? You're not supposed to be able to control them. You're supposed to meet them on the path, to go on the journey together and see what kind of snacks they brought along, right? Like how the collaboration can unfold. And as we move towards the end of Gemini season and start to approach the solstice on June 20th, I think a lot of you are having really profound clarity around the nature of intimacy and your needs inside of intimacy. There are new experiences in sharing and in vulnerability and in trust building. And again, some of you are taking more space and more distance. And so this might be new experiences around vulnerability and intimacy with yourself, and a recognition of, oh, like I left myself in that dynamic, or I wasn't able to be authentic, or I was being really overbearing or something like that. And so there's a recognition then of like how you want to come into your own internal space in a different way. So I'm going to summarize there and say that this is a season where relationships are shifting remarkably. These might be relationships with parents, grandparents, and family, with spouses, partners, and lovers, with friends, best friends, and work relationships. Some of you are having relational shifts with your frenemies and enemies, and like the reflections that you're getting from people who really activate you. And a lot of you are probably having across the board relational evolution. And not all of it is just internal for you. Plenty of it is happening because of what's happening for other people and what they're bringing, right? In their part of the exchange. Over the course of this season and all seasons, I want to encourage you to work with astrology. I just think that it is a really fantastic, very helpful technology to be applying to our lives and inside of our relationships. It does not have to be, and I think it's better when it's not fundamentalist and dogmatic and prescribed. I have my way of talking about astrology, but you're going to have your way of feeling your own chart and connecting with these symbols in your life. And at Embodied Astrology, everything that we're doing is about giving you creative agency and personal empowerment to be in conversation with astrology on your own terms and to do it in community with people who want to have conversations about it. And so, especially for those of you that are ready for relationships that are kind of like up leveling on a metaphysical or spiritual level, come hang out at EA. Over the course of this month, we have a couple of offerings coming up. One of them in particular, I really want to recommend, which is Artistic Alchemy. That's a monthly series that we have facilitated by Junata Petrus, always somewhere around the full moon. The particular one that I'm talking about will actually happen, I think, probably before you hear this, but you can get the recording because it is the Artistic Alchemy for the Sagittarius full moon on the 23rd of May. Artistic Alchemy is a community space where what we do is work with creative prompts and practices that Junata leads. And then we have conversation and communal practice around supporting one another to live creative lives. You don't have to identify as an artist. All you have to do is come and show up and remember with us how you are in your creative beingness. In this full moon, there's going to be probably a lot of prompts and practices for you to feel into your own relational axis and your boldness, your expansion, your learning, and your growth. Junata will have the Capricorn full moon session right at the beginning of Cancer season around June 23rd. And again, those sessions are every single month. They are drop-in, and you can always get the recording of anything that EA does if you can't attend live. Over the course of this year, Sherry Taylor is facilitating several devotional cycles working with the femme faces of Saturn. Saturn is currently moving in your solar fourth house in your sibling mutable sign Pisces. And when I'm talking about foundation and attachment and home and family and building your own sense of security and stability, I'm looking at Saturn in your fourth house. Now, Saturn in mythology has often been associated with archetypal energy that is stern, that's rigid, that's oppressive, that's challenging, that's about separating. And sometimes it really can be that. And having Saturn move through your fourth house is definitely not always going to be easy. But if you follow the myths of Saturn back into like pre-Western, pre-Greek roots of Mesopotamia, you will find that these myths are anchored in origins of wildly creative, queer beings that move between the ocean and the land, and that are really integrated and committed to making sure that everybody has what they need. And I think that this is the energy that you are really trying to draw in your life right now. And it might be so powerful for you to engage with some devotional practice and planetary allyship with Saturn. And Sherry is beginning a new devotional cycle at the end of June. Gabs 404 is an artist and an astrologer based in Brazil. They have been teaching with embodied astrology for the past 2 years, combining photography with astrological practice, especially using portraiture and visual imagery to imagine into the placements in our charts. And this year they're working with Neptune at the anaretic degree of Pisces. Again, really important place for you in your solar fourth house. And over the course of the next 2 years, Neptune is making a move into Aries, your fellow fire sign, which holds the solar fifth house, a place of profound creativity and regenerative energy. This year, Gabs is working with Neptune at the last degree of Pisces as a symbol of reality dissolving and then reforming. And I want to invite you particularly to come work with your chart placements and think about what can relational landscapes look like for you in alternate, otherwise imagined future realities, so that you can ground yourself in an image of what is possible and you can continue to meditate with that. Every single week, I offer Somatic Space, which is a drop-in by donation space on Zoom where we work in our bodies to feel into the astrology of the week ahead and practice attunement and meditation and somatic awareness to support us through the transits. Again, everything that we offer you can find by recording if you can't attend live. Everything we offer is offered at tiered pricing, and it would be great to have you there. Sagittarius, I'm wishing you all the best in Gemini season. Bye for now.